Okay, I think we are live. I don't know if anyone's joining us just yet, but I think we'll just go ahead and get started and hope for the best. So if
Yeah,
anyone happens to be here, I think now, oh, we've got a few people joining. Um, in full transparency, we are doing a LinkedIn Live for the very first time. So if there are some hiccups along the way, this is Justin and I being brave and doing new things and just
yeah,
rolling with it. So
yeah.
launching less than perfect is what we're doing today. So
Yes, I love it.
yeah, ripping the band-aid off, I think is what we talked about when we were planning for this,
Yes.
right? Like we
Let's
just need to
just do
do it.
stuff and see what happens.
That's right. We're just doing stuff and
Yeah.
seeing what happens. Well, welcome everyone. We are so glad you are here. My name is Laura Click. I am the founder and CEO of Blue Kite. We're a brand strategy and development agency. We help companies whose outside don't match their inside. We fix that problem. And then I've got an EOS implementer, Justin Cook, with me. Justin, I'll let you introduce yourself. Say hello to the folks joining.
Yeah, so excited to be here. Justin Cook, as Laura mentioned, EOS Implementer, and I help companies get aligned on vision, execute the vision with discipline and accountability, and be more healthy and a great place to work.
Awesome. Well, and Justin and
Yeah,
I go way back. I was thinking about it. Just it's got to
yeah,
be close to 10 years. Is that
yeah,
right?
yes,
Roughly. Justin and I met when he was working for a client of mine. And so you were doing the very thing you help clients do now,
yeah,
which is implement the EOS system. You were doing that within the company you were working for, and
yeah,
they were my clients. So I got to see you doing this firsthand, which I think we connected pretty instantly because our work dovetails so nicely together. And
yeah.
so we've stayed in touch all this time after that company since sold and you had left. You went out on your own, and we've stayed in touch, and we've had these wonderful conversations. And we thought, let's just host a LinkedIn Live and talk about it because our work does really intersect, and we have such mutual admiration for each other, and
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah,
we can help folks kind of navigate some of these key questions. Anything I
yeah.
missed?
No, I love that. I was excited that we decided to do this because I do think, what we've talked about, that like inside outside piece
Yeah.
and getting those to match up, I think it's just a really interesting perspective. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Well, let's go ahead and dive in. And folks, if you have questions, I see some folks joining us. Johnny, Dave, Katie, hello. Thank you for being here. If you have questions, drop them in the comments and we will do our best to address them at the end. And we'll keep our eye on those as well. If we have a way to kind of answer them as we go, we can, but otherwise we'll take some questions at the end. But we kind of hinted at the topic a little bit about your outside not matching your inside. And can we both address different sides of that coin? So Justin, I would love to hear from you. What is your experience? You help companies with more of the inside problem. So what are some of the things that your clients are feeling, or when they pick up the phone and call you, what's the pain points that they're experiencing that say, I need help, something's not right?
Yeah, I think we call them the five frustrations, and this comes from work that Gino Wickman, who founded EOS and wrote the book Traction, as he was building EOS and spent about 10 years just pulling levers, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't. He just noticed a difference between companies that were really doing great and had everything together and were getting what they wanted. And that was like 5% of the companies out there. And then there was everybody else. And they were just dealing with one or more, maybe all of these frustrations. And the first is just like lack of control, feeling like the business is running you, not you're running the business. And you're just in sort of very reactive mode to everything and you don't have control. The second frustration is profit or not enough profit. So business owners that are just putting in all of this work and effort and they're taking all of this risk and it is not being returned to them in the amount of profit that they should be getting for all of that work. The third frustration is around people. You got people, whether it's your people that work for you, it's your customers, your vendors, but people that just don't seem to get it. And you're just frustrated because you just can't break through to those people. The fourth frustration is just this sense of hitting the ceiling where everything was working for some period of time and then it stopped. And you can see it, you can see where you want to go, you can see how to get there, and you just keep running up against something that you can't explain. And it's like, why is this gotten so hard? And then the fifth one is just that nothing seems to work. And so a
Mm.
lot of times in response to some of these frustrations, you've tried a bunch of different stuff. You read a different book every month and you start trying to do that stuff. Maybe you do a book club with your employees and you try doing that. And like it works for a little while and then it reverts back.
Mm.
And so it's those like those five things. I sometimes when I'm talking to entrepreneurs, I'll just say like, does any of that resonate? If it doesn't, you can tune out for the rest of this because of like you're in the 5% and more power to you. But if any of that resonates, that's the work that I do is to help solve for those frustrations.
Wait, so did I catch that? That only 5% of businesses don't have one of those five
Yeah,
frustrations?
I
Is that,
think
did
that
I catch that?
yes, I think that there's like these rare examples of people that they've got it together, they've figured it out, they're doing the stuff. But most business owners are experiencing one or more of those things. And that plays
The,
out when I've asked that question.
yeah, well, the one that really strikes me that feels a little more nuanced than the other ones. So I think it's pretty obvious. Like, you know, when your profit isn't where it needs to be, you know, when you have people problems. But what about when folks are saying things were working, but now they're not? What is the cause of that? What is the reason? Is it growth? Is it some sort of change? Or what is the reason that things used to be working, but now they're struggling?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people have heard the people that get you here may not get you there,
Mm,
right? You've heard
hmm.
that. Well, it's
Yeah.
the same thing, like the habits that got you here will keep you here.
Mm,
The
hmm.
systems that got you here are designed for here, not for there.
Mm.
And so a lot of times they get you to a place and then some things need to change. The other thing I see a lot is that as your business grows, complexity naturally creeps in. You add a process because something got messed up one time. And it was a fluke. You didn't need a whole process, but now there's like a whole new process you're doing. You add a piece of software to solve this problem and another piece to solve this problem. And then that creates another problem. And you add a piece of software to solve this one. Or as you've grown, you've sort of designed jobs around the people that you have. And that works for a little while, but it doesn't scale. And so there's just all of these different uh, complex things that we add into the business. And every single one of them has an advocate. Shane Parrish wrote a LinkedIn post about this a while back about how like anything that has been added to your business, somebody advocated to add that thing. Nobody is advocating to delete those
Mm.
things. And that thing has
Mm.
a protector. And so we become professional complexity managers. And
Yeah.
so that I think those are honestly that complexity piece is the thing that I see causing us to hit the ceiling so often.
That's really fascinating because I don't know that that's the first thing I would have thought of. I know that I've seen people share this that your business will only grow as much as you do. So how much is that the founder, the CEO is kind of hit their ceiling in terms of their own growth and expansion. And I think as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you have to constantly be learning and growing and getting better. If you're not doing that, you might hit your own ceiling as well in terms of what the business is capable of because you're not trying to better yourself. Do you see that too, or is it more of the complexity piece is the real linchpin there?
That's a really interesting perspective. And even as you were saying it, what was coming to mind for me is people that reach out to me are naturally growth oriented. And so I probably run into fewer of those people that just haven't been focused on their own growth. And that's why they've hit this. I mean, to some extent, there's probably growth that they can do, but most people that invest with me, it's because they are highly growth oriented. They've been learning and trying to improve themselves, but it's bringing the whole organization along that becomes really challenging.
Yeah, that's a great point. I guess you're not going to, the work that you do is not for the faint of heart. It's really difficult.
Right.
Having watched you do it and internally within an organization, it's not easy. There's probably a lot of self-reflection and soul searching that
Yeah.
happens as a part
Yeah.
of your work, right? And so I don't think you're going to volunteer for that. I'm not, now, please don't hear me say that it's painful working with Justin or implementing EOS, but it's not. It's not easy, right? Like you're having to really
Yeah,
evaluate the whole structure of the business to make sure it's running smoothly.
yeah. I mean, I want people to know if we're going to do this, it isn't for the faint of heart. It's going to require, there are no magic pills here. There are no silver bullets. It's going to require hard work. It's going to require discipline. It's going to require change. Like if, again, what got you here is what is keeping you here.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be more afraid of the status quo than of change if we're going to do this. And it's okay to not want change. It's okay to want to just stay where you are and say, I want to choose this over the uncertainty of what's next. We just shouldn't work together because we're like, there's going to be change if we work together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk about how our worlds intersect a little bit because I think one of the things I see in my work is that people believe that marketing or branding will cure all ills, right? And so I don't know if you
Yeah.
experience that some, but especially the profit question. I think this is where our work intersects to some extent. I would say people to some extent too, from the culture standpoint. But when you have a company that's saying we're not as profitable as we want, we're trying to drive revenue, and they think that marketing is the fix, right? And so how much do you say, hey, this isn't really, do you ever have those questions? Like, this isn't really a marketing problem or a brand problem. There are other levers that we need to pull to impact the profitability side.
Yeah, that's one part of the equation, right? Like, is the issue that our top of funnel isn't where we want it to be? Is the issue that we're not executing well on what we get? Is the issue that we're not, like, from a financial perspective, billing well or managing our expenses well?
Mm.
When we start the work and we build an accountability chart, which is like an org chart on steroids, I say you've got to, like, business is not that complicated. You got to do sales and marketing. You got to do operations, deliver your product or service. You got to do finance, manage the flow of resources, get work, do work, get paid. Like, those, business is simple. And those three things have to be equally strong. And it's easy to sort of shift to, well, we just got to get more work. Well, you can get all the work you want, but if you're not delivering well, it's coming in the front door and out the back door.
You stole my line, Justin. We talk
Sorry.
about
Yes.
that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
No, but it's so true. Like, so that's a good way. That's a good segue into to my side of the equation. What I see, you're absolutely right. I liked, this is a former farm girl analogy, but we don't like to put lipstick on pigs, right? And I think a lot
Yeah.
of time from people assume marketing in general on a broader scale, or more specifically brand work, which is what we do. If we just brand it better, it's like the build it and they will come. Let's build a better brand that will drive more business. It's not that building a better brand, it does impact those things, but it doesn't cure everything. I mean, we've had that experience in the past where we've had clients who we were doing a great job on the marketing side, and this is when we did more ongoing implementation work, but we had clients where we were doing a great job bringing leads in the door, but then they were losing customers out the back door because the service quality just wasn't there. And so I think that it's one of those things I would say with this inside outside question that we're talking about. If I had my druthers, I say fix your inside first. So talk to Justin first about what needs to be fixed within your business before you address the marketing problem or the brand problem. And so once you've got that, I think where we come into to that equation is maybe you've done the work that Justin does. Your operations is great. You've got a really strong system in place, really strong foundation. Your service delivery is excellent. Your customers love you, but you're ready to scale it. You're ready to invest in a deeper marketing operation. Maybe you're ready to hire some sales folks. You're ready to double down on growth. That's the time to really invest in your brand. So much of the work we do, I think we work with clients really at two stages. So when they're launching, obviously because we help build brands, we help clients, especially funded startups, when they're launching, so you can launch well. But the other point is we do a lot of brand rebrands when a company's grown a lot, but their brand hasn't kept pace. So maybe your brand has reached the teenage years, but your brand is like looking like you're in the toddler years, right? So kind of back to what you said, what got you started, what got you here won't get you there. That is really the work we do on the brand side, is that you've grown a lot, and perhaps your positioning, your messaging, your visual identity, all of those things haven't really kept pace with all the growth you've had. You've expanded products and services. Maybe you acquired some companies. You've gone into new markets, and so if your brand doesn't really reflect that level of quality, our work is really about getting those in sync. So let's make the caliber of the work really align with what people are seeing from the outside.
Yeah, something that strikes me just as you were talking through that is, at least for a lot of the organizations that I work with that are not like funded startups, but these are bootstrapped organizations that, somebody was good at something and decided to build a business doing it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And early on, a lot of that business is word of mouth, it's referrals, and there's a transference of trust in a referral where you're just not as worried about what your brand looks like. You're not as worried about what your website looks like because you already got that trust with the referral. And a lot of times that is very founder driven. But you reach this point where if you're wanting to grow beyond the founder driving sales, and you're wanting to grow beyond just the referrals, but actually have a presence in the marketplace, it seems like you have to have a brand that provides some of that trust that you were
Yeah.
getting transferred. But this feels like one of those inflection points of like, oh, we need people that come across our website to trust us based on what they see. Is that one of the things that you see when you're working with somebody around a rebrand?
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a really great point. I think, when I think about our work too, our job is really about a long-term investment as opposed to a short-term fix. And so if you're looking at branding as a short-term fix, this is not a short-term fix, right? It's about investing for the long-term growth of your company, where I think a lot of what you're dealing with clients is, how do we fix these like excruciating pain points that are affecting my day-to-day life, right? And so,
Yeah.
but we are about how do we come in and gosh, now I like lost my train of thought. I was like remembering the short term, long term. I forgot. Say your question one more time, Justin. You were wanting to know.
Just around like that, as you're building, you're getting some trust transferred
Yes,
because you're
yes, yes,
living
yes.
on referrals versus just showing up in the marketplace in a way that generates trust, whether they've ever heard of you or not.
Yeah, I think one of the things, there comes a point in every business, most businesses, where referrals are amazing. I hope you always get referrals. We always want that, right? But I think you get to a point where you kind of max out what referrals can do, and you're going to have to invest in marketing. And so really branding and marketing is about, how do we expand our reach in a way that's going to communicate our brand difference and why someone should choose us over the other options they have. And so you need your brand to carry weight if you're investing more on the marketing side of things, or if you've got a sales force. Like the founder's always the best salesperson, right? And so but you get to a point where the founder can't always be the one selling everything. And so if you have a sales team where you have other members of your team who are responsible for helping sell your product or your service, you need a brand that's going to carry enough weight. So you're quickly communicating what you're about and why someone should choose you. So it does really provide some heft as you're going out and selling, and when you're kind of growing past what referrals can do for you. So yeah, I think that is something that we see, and it's not that we don't want to say you can't get referrals anymore. I think really the brand work is more from when you've maxed out what referrals can do for you. I think, you talked about some of the times when folks are encountering these business problems where you can help. For us, it's things like, if people come to your website, or maybe they onboard and sign with you, right? And they go, wow, this is way better than I expected. Then you go,
Yeah.
oh, then there's something about your experience from the brand, or maybe even the sales process, that didn't really live up to their expectations were low based on, what you were putting out there in the world. And then you're giving an experience like this, like our work is about closing that gap, right? And so you
Yeah.
don't want to overpromise and under deliver, but you really want to make sure that your promises are matching the quality and level of service you provide. So I think that is one. If your sales team is having a like longer sales process, brand work can really help shorten that. So if you're communicating the value of your work really well, hopefully your sales cycle should be a lot shorter when the messaging and branding has done its job. So I think that is one of those things that people will see, or if pricing is another one. So they go, wow, this is a lot cheaper than I expected. Again, that's another signal that says your brand really hasn't done a good job of communicating the value. You could charge, I'm sorry, I have it backwards. If they think it's cheap, based on the what they've seen, and then the price is higher, and they're like, oh, I didn't expect it to be that much. That would be one of those
Yeah.
times that you go, oh, wow, the brand isn't doing a good job of communicating the value that we deliver.
Yeah, it makes me think of something that when I'm talking to a team and they're talking about like communication, and maybe two people are struggling to communicate, and I just point out like there's the stuff that everybody sees and hears, and then there's the story they fill in, right?
Mm,
And it seems like there's a thread here with your brand. There's what they see, and then anything that's not communicated clearly by your brand, they're filling in a story. And it may be true, it may not be, but it's based on what they're able to see. And so if they see a sort of half done website, or they see, it looks like your logo was done in Microsoft Paint or whatever, like, again, this may have worked when you were getting referrals that were trust based, but they see this and they say, okay, like this, this is probably going to be cheap.
right.
Or this is probably gonna not be a great experience, and some people they'll still buy from that, like that's fine for them, but how many people are you missing out on because they're telling a story about your company based on what they've seen that may or may not be true?
100%. Well, let's talk a little bit. I can't believe you've already taken up so much time. I'm like, we don't have much time left. There's so much we could cover. But,
Yeah.
I think in a perfect world, you'd love to go linearly on this, right? And so if someone has some of the problems you mentioned, and maybe as part of that, you also uncover that there's some brand issues too, right? So what do you handle first, the inside or the outside? I think we'd always say get your inside fixed before you make the outside look really good. But maybe somebody doesn't have the luxury of time. What do you do? How do you handle that?
Yeah, I think so. One of the things I love about what I do with EOS, especially when I describe it to everybody, they are like, oh, that sounds like a lot. Like, how are we going to do all this? And there's just a mindset shift. With EOS, this is not a bunch of stuff you're doing on top of everything else. It just becomes the framework by which you're running your business. And it becomes the framework by which you prioritize. And so as you're getting your things together pretty quickly in what we do, you start getting clear on what your priorities are. And we use things like rocks, what are your priorities for the next 90 days to drive where you're spending your energy. And if brand is one of those places, it just slots into the system, right? That becomes a rock or a project for someone, or maybe it's a goal for the year. And so you can, I say for what I do, it's typically a 2-year journey to get to where you're using the tools really well and you've mastered them. But within about 60 days, you've made big progress. And within 6 months, you've maybe gone from 20% strong to 60% strong. And the rest of the journey is to get you to like 80% or better. But as you're making that progress, you can be doing brand work. And it's just
Mm,
helping you get clear, this is where we're going to spend time. And this is what we're going to say no to in order to spend the right amount of time here.
yeah. No, I love that. I think again, I can't tell you how many times we've worked with clients where we say, hey, we've got to build the plane and fly it at the same time because of,
Yeah.
time is what it is. And so sometimes if a client is really needing to make some significant changes in their business, you might have to be working on the inside and the outside simultaneously, like try and fix some of those things you're talking about while also going, how do we improve how we show up in the world to better generate leads and get business coming in the door, so we actually have a business, from in a
Right.
year or two from now, right? So I think I always get wary when clients or companies want to view brand work as a Hail Mary. It's probably not the right
Mhm.
move. It's not a Hail Mary. Brand work is an investment in long-term growth, really. I think you can't always see the results right away, but when you do it well, 6, 12 months, you should start seeing that snowball effect of the work that you've put in. I think it's not even just about how the world sees you. One of the things we talked about in our prep call was how the confidence factor and how you show up in
Oh,
the world. I think it can make you as a founder feel more confident in the rooms you show up in. It might help you be more confident as you hand out your business card or tell someone to go to your website. If you're feeling a little squeamish about handing either of those things out, that's a sign or a signal that maybe you need to make some changes. But I think both of what we do, it's kind of the intangible piece of what we offer is confidence for a founder and for the business itself. What would you say about that?
yeah, I think like confidence is behind so many of our behaviors and what we choose to do and what we choose not to do. And am I gonna am I gonna go to this thing? Well, people are gonna be handing out business cards and I'm kind of embarrassed with my business card, right?
Yeah.
Or am I gonna can I easily just send them to my website for more information? I don't know. I don't know if I want them to see that. If I hire salespeople right now, are they going to be frustrated because our brand isn't where it needs to be to represent for them? So like confidence is everything. And it happens the way I see it is your ability to let go. Do we have our
Mm,
systems in place? Do we have the right people in place for me to let go as a founder and go do the things that I need to do? One of the things that you've got to get good at as a leader is delegating, but you've got to be confident that when you delegate, it will get done. So having
mm.
the systems and accountability and structure in place to have that confidence drives those different behaviors. So yeah, I think the confidence factor is huge in so many ways. And whether it's externally being confident in how you show up or internally being confident in how you'll deliver, you got to have that.
I think that on the flip side of this coin, that's interesting to think about is the ego part of it. We talked about this as we were preparing too, is that I think we both encounter this piece too. I think more often than not, founders, I've had this a lot with clients where they say, it's not about me, it's about the business. They're trying to take themselves out of it. But I think it kind of shows up in this interesting way on the brand side. And I'll share how I experience it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too. It's not so much about ego, it's more about self-centeredness. And so I would say it's, you start a company, much of like what you said, you have a skill set, you're really good at something, or you believe you have something new to bring to the world, or want a new way of doing it, or your own way of doing it. And so you start a business, and a lot of times when founders start, the company is really about them. And so they kind of brand the business, they build the business in their own image in a lot of
Mm,
ways, right? And so they make a lot of choices that are about, well, my favorite color is green, so I'm going to make this green. I'm going to make my logo this or have these things in it because these are the things I care about. Not wrong, but at the end of the day, so much of our work is how do you communicate in the right way to your ideal client and customer? What is going to resonate with them? What's going to solve their problem? How can you show that your solution is better than the others out there on the market? And that might mean presenting yourself in a different way that speaks to your preferences, because this is one thing I say a lot is like, you are not your customer. Most of the time you're not. And so we make so many choices, I think, as founders that are about what we would do. And a lot of times that's not what your ideal client or your ideal customer might say. So I think some of the shifts we have to make with clients is helping them think about, it's not about you. It's about how do we build something that's attractive to the right people. How do you experience that with your clients?
yeah, I see that show up specifically when we do marketing strategy, which we do a very high level. Who's your ideal customer? What are your three uniques? Proven process guarantee. But in that three uniques, what are your differentiators? I have to remind clients multiple times, this isn't what you like about yourself. It's what your target market likes about you. And those may or may not be the same. There can be things that you're really proud of, but like, does your ideal customer care? If they don't, like, don't make that part of your messaging. And I know that hurts. And I see it like I've coached new EOS implementers, and we have like a 1 minute story that we tell of, hey, here's my background, here's why I'm a good fit for you. And early on, when you're crafting that story, you put a bunch of stuff in there about yourself that you're proud of. And almost always, those first versions, somebody will say it to me, and I'll say, that's great, but they don't care. Like, because it's just not relevant to this buying decision.
Mm,
And so
yeah.
you really have to let go of some of those things that matter a lot to you if they don't matter to your customer.
Mm. Yeah, that's so true. I think that is one of the things that we have to talk a lot to a lot of folks about. And if we were doing with our brand strategy work, I'm always so surprised at how rarely clients will do anything to gather feedback from their clients and customers. And so it's like the
Yeah.
things that they think are really great about their business, to your point, may not be what their customers think. And so my question always is like, when's the last time you've asked? And most
Yeah.
of the time it's never or rarely. And
Yeah.
so, we go on this fact finding mission to say like, well, what do your clients and customers actually think? Because we want to make sure the messaging we're putting out is aligned with that. So that's one of those kind of interesting things too, is like, you don't want to, you want to talk about the things that you think are important, but it's really about what do your clients and customers value most? And what's interesting is we'll often kind of hit on some things that the company, our client, may not have thought of, in terms of what makes them special and different. So it's like
Yeah.
you can often find some really interesting differentiators there. I'm noticing we're already over than the time we had planned. If anyone has questions, now is your moment. I don't see anything in there, but I do have a comment for you. Thank you, Johnny. He said, "What's hard is working without EOS." So you've got a fan amongst our
Good,
viewers.
good, good. That is harder.
And
Yeah.
yeah, right. So I guess, if the whole idea of systems freaks you out, it's like, well, we all make choices. Are you going to run on Windows? Or are you going to be on a Mac? Like those are systems, right? And so I think a smart running system is going to make everything move easier. Okay, well, I don't know that we have any questions, so we'll just wrap things up. I know we could easily talk another 20-30 minutes,
Yeah.
Justin. I
Yeah.
think we both are so passionate about this, but any closing thoughts that you have before we sign off, Justin, that you want to make folks here know about, and then where can they find you? So what are those things?
Um, okay, closing thoughts. I would just say if you're experiencing any of those frustrations, let's talk because you don't have to. There's a solution out there. It doesn't have to be that way. And you can reach me by email, justin.cook@usworldwide.com. If you find me on LinkedIn, you've got links to my website. You can call me 615-336-7133. Just put it on the internet.
Look at all those call to
Yeah,
actions. That's so
yeah.
great. That's so good. Everyone's got Justin's phone number now, so we're all going to
Yeah.
start calling him.
What about you, Laura?
Well,
Where do they find you?
yeah, so good. Well, you can always hit me up here on LinkedIn. My website is flybluekite.com. So that's a great place to check out our work. Hopefully our outside matches our inside. But yeah, that's really the work that we do. So I think, for folks listening to this today, if you've got, you've got those pain points that Justin mentioned, I hope you'll reach out to him. He's a really smart guy who can help you walk you through fixing some of those things. And when you've done that, then call me. We're ready to help you when there is that gap between how you're running your business, or if you've built your brand and built your business and your brand really hasn't kept up. We'd really like to help you right size those things and create better alignment so people are getting that wow experience from the start and not just after they've picked up the phone and called you. So you can find me at flybluekite.com or here on LinkedIn. So thank you so much for everyone joining today live. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for helping us rip off the Band-Aid with our very first LinkedIn Live. We're so glad you
Yeah.
joined us. Justin, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for spending time with me here today. This has been awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for putting it together. This is great.
All right. Take care.
All right. Thanks.